Alright guys, welcome back to the garden and to the channel. We've had a few changes since we last had the garden update. We're now approaching the middle of July. Now as we go around, we'll have a look and see what's grown since then and a few of the new additions that we've added since our last video. So let's take a look. As you might remember from the last video here, this center bed was very messy looking and we kind of were trying to figure out what to do with it. For now, just going with a lot of just summer bedding, just to give it a little pop of color as we enter into the back half of the summer now. In the front, you can see the Waggy Princeps, Trachycarpus Waggy Princeps hybrid here is just opening its first leaf of the year, so very slow for me going at the moment here. Now as we pan across again, let's take a quick look. You can see the sedum garden has gone into full flower. The tree fern is looking fairly happy. Let's go investigate this sedum garden. Alright guys, so here on the water feature that was built quite some time ago, about 3 years ago now, you can see we've got all the sedums which have now covered the rock fully. And as we take a look, we can see here the kind of colors that we're getting on this, all into flower here. Lovely sets of white flowers as we take a look at it. Coming in a bit closer, you can see here very delicate white flowers on here. Just a bit more of a close-up on the center bed here. You've got a Canna hybrid. We've also got some very small Xanthodecia, I believe, coming up. Again, this one comes up from the ground every year. Doesn't really do much. I don't think it's in a great spot, but I've just left it to do its thing. You got the hosta in flower. Next to that, we've got the Hart's Tongue fern. And panning up here, you can now see all of the sedums that are in flower here. And as a backdrop, we've got our Chamaerops humilis. This is the triple trunk form here. Now let's take a quick look at this. As we walk up, you can see it's starting to look a bit more like we've got some trunks coming out. Done a bit of thinning on this. And as we take a look into the new growth, you can see it's absolutely full of new growth here, coming up for the year here. Panning back around, we've got the bamboo grass, which has gone into full flower here. I do apologize on the mess in the garden, guys, as I say. Very lived-in garden, this one here. And as we come around, here is the Musa sycamensis. We'll come back and have a look at these plants in a bit more depth shortly, but for now. Alright, so as we pan across from the center bed here, we'll come take a look at that in more depth. We've added a new area, so we've cleaned this area out. This has had the iris in it before, which you may remember from the last video. Removed the iris, removed all of the rosemary. Again, we've added a Trachycarpus, the Brunnera, which again, lovely form on the leaves on these. Great ground cover, comes back, it's perennial, just comes back every year. Very nice kind of addition. This area here, we want to essentially turn this into a little Musabastu clump. And again, repeating that as we move down into the fire pit area here. Again, we've taken a off the mother plant, planted it here, and we're just going to see how that goes. You can see it's struggling to get going, but we'll hopefully get that rooted and growing this here. Right, so let's just come back here briefly and have a quick look at the individual plants we've decided to change this out for. Alright, so here we have the Trachycarpus Princeps hybrid. You can see it's got a small little trunk on that. Few new leaves come out already this year. It's very hard to tell, but you get the nice blue underside on that as it gets bigger. Next to that, we've now added one of the Canna hybrids and Musabastu, just a small plant here. And following that, we've also added a small pink china. With a few of the Persicaria red dragon cuttings involved here as well, and this is just to kind of fill this area. Following around here, you got the Brunnera, another new add for this year. Picked up a couple more of the smaller Trachycarpus palm trees here, and this is just in this bed with a little bit of ground bedding. And finally, we've got the Canna Canova, I believe, on that one, and another hybrid here. Moving over from this bed here, we've got the hardy fuchsia It's also come out quite nicely since the last video. We can see here the hops have gone absolutely mental, taking up majority of the fence here. Still growing strong. Really great plant. Next to that we've got celebration roses. Moved one of the smaller Musabastu bananas over here. Surprisingly, since last video, guys, you can actually see the Washingtonias that we thought had completely gone. Left them in the ground, just thought, well, we'll see what happens. And look, we've got some new growth coming out of both of these, so we'll just have to see where these go this year. Not huge on the Washingtonias. I don't seem to have great luck on them, but we'll see. It made it through the winter. Bit of a mild winter this year, so just have to see what happens. Next to that, planted another small pink china pot here, just again to add some of the kind of ground cover underneath here. Next to that, we've got the blue fern again, which you remember from last video, and another Brunera also added there. Ground cover underneath the rhododendron is growing in nicely. You've got the small clumps of the ferns here, and we've also got some the lavender that's also come up here as well. Moving down on this bed, you can see we've got one of the hostas, the variegated type. Some of the variegation on the new leaves has come out quite pretty as well. You can see it's got quite an interesting sort of patterning on it. It's still next to the baby Dixonia, which again, if you remember from last video, absolutely nothing happening on this one. Gonna leave it for the summer and see what happens, and may end up planting some small fern into it if it doesn't do anything. Again, this is the Trachycarpus that we went over last time. Put on a couple new leaves since we last spoke. Panning over here into this bed, these flower spikes came up from the small yucca cuttings that we had here, and right behind that you've got a cordyloin, which I believe is maybe a 4 or 5 head now. Very healthy looking, really putting on some height this year. Next to that you've got your 5-foot trunk Trachycarpus, doing really well. Heads are really opening up now on the crown, so I think we're going to get some good growth this year. A few new spears coming up out of that. Again, another Brunner crump. Now we've moved the Cycas revoluta, or sago palm, that was in this area. It just wasn't doing anything well. I've moved it to the back into a raised bed, so we'll just see if it does anything this year. Maybe a bit of a loss. You can see here in front we've got the Yucca Jewel. This was actually a bargain pickup very recently. Picked up 2 of them from B&M in the UK. These were reduced down to half price, so thought a bit of a bargain. Now these are a little bit less hardy than your typical yuccas. These are rated down to -2. I've not grown them in my garden before, so I'm going to see how they go this winter. May end up putting a heavy protection on it. We'll just have to see how the winter goes, basically. Now onto the center bed here. You can see, and do apologize about the weeds, guys, here. We've got the iris clump, which again I think I may do something with. Not quite 100% happy. Looks a bit tatty most of the year. It is evergreen, but again, the browning on it I think just takes away from the plant there. Next to that, you may remember we had a very small flower spike on it before, but that's the flowers that have come out of the yucca clump here. And I would say that is nearly 8 foot to the top of the spike there. Very big spike. It's only about a 2.5 foot high plant, but you're getting a good 6 foot spike out of these. Lovely flowers on these as well. And these are actually edible flowers. From what I understand, they taste a bit like a artichoke, typically down in sort of southwestern Americas. I believe it is used as a food crop. I've never ate it myself, but apparently it is edible. Next to that you've got the 4-foot Dixonia Antarctica tree fern. Beautiful flush on it this year. This was new to us this year, hence the staking around it. I'm trying to get some roots into the ground before I remove those stakes. And I can see, going into here, it does look that we do have some rooting already going into the ground. So, which you can just see with my finger here, that little one there. is attached to the ground and actually into the ground, so we are getting some rooting already, which is a good sign. Next to that, we've got the small phormium clump and a Musa sycamensis, or Darjeeling banana. It's actually from the Sikkim region, near the Himalayas. You can see the leaves are quite a bit thinner than the Musa bastia, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But you get these lovely sort of tiger striped striations on it here of variegation. Really quite a pretty plant, and a red underside to the leaves, so there's a bit of a red undertone to these. New to me this year, so all the leaf growth is new. Not sure if I'm going to protect it, dig it up. Not really quite sure what I'm going to do with this one this year. It's the only one I've got and I quite like it, so I'm quite desperate to try and protect it and get it through another winter. Now, coming off of the fire pit area, of course you got your little, this is the trachea again, and we've got another one here. Got the little path coming down, and this is the mini golf course which we built about 2 years ago now. Lots of videos on the channel about this project. Still ongoing. It's got a lot of mess on it at the moment, so won't comment too much on that. I'm going to be removing the small cedars here. They are getting too big. It's in the way. I'd like to move it to some tropical style planting. And just panning around on the mini golf project, you can see here we've got a small trachycarpus that's also gone in since the last video. Here, a clump of the yuccas there. Again, transplants. And let's just take a walk down here. So this is hole number 1. As you come around here, we've got a small bridge over some very small ponds that we've added in, and we've just added some fish in this year. So we may hopefully going to be adding more, as they seem to be doing okay, even though it's quite a small little pond. As we walk down here, we've got hole 2, start of hole 2. In this center bed next to hole 2, we've got the Canna Pretoria, which has come out really lovely leaves this year. One of the biggest cannas I've got growing at the moment. Next to that, again, we've got the Yucca, which has flowered now, and I'll show a video shortly of the flowers when they were in flower. Just a quick look here, guys, at the Yucca, just now in full flower. Beautiful flowers on these, as you can see. And that's probably, I would say a 2-foot spike, just under 1 meter. Coming down to here, another pink china added. You can see it's just uncurling a new leaf. We'll take a look at that in more depth in a second. Got the red phormium here, our New Zealand flax. That's also coming up nicely. Now, something new for since last video, guys, we have actually added a entire center bed off the back here where the butia is. You can see we've added a path, and I'll just quickly pan over here. We've also added a pool temporarily as well, which we'll go have a look at the moment. So as we continue on looking down the mini golf course and panning over the rest of the areas, the garden, you probably noticed, guys, that my planting style is very haphazard. Just a style that I've sort of grown to continue. With that said, if there's any plants or anything that I've gone over too quickly, not gone in depth on, you'd like more information on, or even care tips on how to overwinter, or even just general watering and feeding practices, drop a comment down below, and I'd be happy to go into that there. So let's continue. Following down on hole 2, we've got another small pond. This one just has 1 fish in it at the moment. We've got some of the grasses growing out of it here, which have done very well this year. This project is on the channel as well if you'd like to check that out, of how this was made. Go and have a look at that. Following down off of hole 2 though, let's keep going here. On the back, you've got a new trachycarpus gone in. The idea with all these palms in is within a few years here, we're going to get a lovely canopy sort of going across the garden, which will allow for good underplanting and a bit more of a tropical feel to it. You've got on the back here, this is wisteria, and it's come up the fence nicely this year. It has already flowered. Not impressive flowers, if I'm honest, so going to wait and hopefully next year get a good flush on that. Moving along now onto hole 3. As we take a look onto hole 3 here, you've got this small patch of plantings here, which is mostly thyme, a trachycarpus. Now this one is quite sort of shorter leaf patterning on it. It feels almost like it could be a slight variation towards a waggy. I don't believe it is, but again, the leaves are slightly different than the other ones I've got, so we'll just have to watch that grow and see how that comes in. And as we come onto hole 4, we've got a small yucca patch. Now I do have to trim back the spikes on these, just as it is in a sort of walking area and used area of the mini golf course. You've got the budula going all the way up the back there, which I'm looking to put on some height this year. Trim that out and make it more into a sort of an overhanging tree. We spin around here. You've got the last of the small ponds. Now this is completely covered with all the leaf and flower from the Camilla here. Now I have not cleaned that up yet, so I do apologize, guys. Let's take a quick look back at the Camellia, and you can see here it's quite a nice sized bush, probably around about 8 foot tall. And then backing onto that, you've got your rhododendron, so you can imagine in the springtime, great flowers off the back of these here. And lastly, as we come back over here, you got the start of hole 5, which comes up around there and down into here. And lastly, you're going to step up into hole 6, which is the lighthouse. Starting from here, next to that, you've got the yucca transplants from last year, a small set of white roses, and we've also got some perennial shrubbery. Again, quite nice variation on that. I cannot remember at the moment the name of that plant, but I will try and find that out. Having a look on the back of this back bed here, I have got a Musa Cavendish. Now, this was a house plant purchased from Morrison's as a house plant, so it's taken quite a big hit when it came to the UV and everything else. Now, I could have sort of gone through the whole process of hardening this off essentially, but for the price and in the position that it's in, I'm happy to let it kind of just do its thing, lose all the old leaf and put out new leaf and just see where it goes. Again, this was a purchase for about £3, I think it was. So, you know, not a huge investment in this, just going to kind of use it as a summer bedding basically. Next to that, you've got the Tetrapanix papyrifera. Now, this is putting out some great new leaves, really quite small still, but at the same time, very good sort of production of the leaves at the moment, so hopefully it's going to really size up. It's already put on a little bit more trunk since the beginning of the year, probably around about 2 inches of trunk, so very good growth rate I'm seeing on this one at the moment here, and hopefully within the year we'll go quite far up along the shed here. Alright guys, moving on to the back bed here. At the back you've got the bamboo. It's a green bamboo. This one is Phylostachys aureocollis, I believe. It is a running bamboo. I have had to put some protection around it, and even still we've had some escapees on this one. Just panning to the side here, we've had a lot of growth on this bamboo clump here this year. You can see basically pretty much all the dark green canes here are new this year, so I would estimate between here to here probably around about 400 to 500 new canes this year, and it has also added another 4 foot of height over last year's columns here, so quite a nice clump. Now really kind of sizing up here, and had to maintain it within this root barrier. Now I've got this log barrier here. Behind that there's also a brick barrier going down into the ground as well, so it's done a fairly good job of preventing that from running further. We pan this way. I've kind of let this kind of just overgrow and do its thing. We had a very large foxglove that went up to around about 8 foot tall before it decided to lean over. A few more coming up here as well as we pan across. One of the showstoppers, the Onset Morelli ventricosum, or the red Ethiopian banana, pardon me. You can see here really lovely coloring on this. Now, I've been reading a lot online. A lot of people have been struggling this year. This is a second year plant, so overwintered it, dry stored it in the cupboard under the stairs, no water. Took it out around about sort of April time and started watering very slowly, Kept it as a house plant for nearly a month before slowly hardening it off outside, and now I would say it's approximately 5 foot tall. The leaves are, I would say, anywhere between 2.5 foot long by about 18 inches wide, so great form on it at the moment here. Next to that, we've also got the Canopratoria. Now, this clump isn't doing as well as the clump we've just seen, but it is starting to put on weight, some height. I'm getting a lot of slugs on this one, which is a bit of a shame on that, but some beautiful leaves on it already, which is great to see. Pulling away from that, the Musabastu coal hardy banana. Japanese banana has done fairly well this year. A lot of tat on the leaves, which I have to think about whether I'm going to clean off or not. For the moment, I haven't done absolutely anything with it at all, and it's approximately 8 foot tall now. Hopefully going to get some great height on that this year. As we come behind the red banana, we do have a small Trachycarpus palm planted here, which hopefully will add some height and some sort of great cover as it gets larger. Behind that, I've got a clump of the black bamboos. Now, I've only had one new culm come up this year, which is quite disappointing, so we're going to see what happens with that. Alongside that, we've got the Yucca. Now you can see this one has approximately about a 4-foot trunk, if you can see behind there, with it splitting off into about 5-6 heads here, and you can see there's actually quite a bit of new green growth coming out of that this year. I have been actually watering this both to the crown as well as to the ground. Reason being, from what I can see from having many of these plants in the garden here, they do also have some form of aerial roots, so just to make sure I'm watering the whole plant basically, and it seems to be sort of quite happy for it. This was actually transplanted middle of last year, just as pretty much a bare log into the ground. Very small amount of roots on it, and it seemed to have sailed through the winter fine and putting on new growth now. So a testament to these, that they're absolutely very hardy, rock solid plants for the garden. And these ones are the ones that put up those beautiful flower spikes. So really great if you can pick one of these up basically, and hardy as old boots basically. Moving on to the back bed here, see if we can get the light right. We've got the clump of the yellow or golden bamboo. Now, each year I do generally try and go in after it has put out all of its leaves and try and clean up the bottom areas, just to kind of highlight and show off the culms. These ones here are probably the largest I've got this year. I would say they're approximately sort of 10p diameter, or sort of a quarter if you're from the States. So quite thick on that side. The biggest ones I've had come up yet. It is still putting out the new growth off of the culm, so I won't be trimming that back until that has put out its leaves fully on that one. Panning across behind here, this is where we've got the experimental tree. I've just wrapped this around each other, hopefully going to form an interesting sort of trunk as that goes up. Behind that on the ground here, you can just see the soaker pipe that we've added all along the back of the garden. May do a separate video on this project. Essentially a form of irrigation to really ensure that we're getting great water for all the plants in the back as well, with sort of so many different beds to water. This is the 1-foot Dixonia, and you can see since our last video it's put out some reasonable size fronds here. I would say these are approximately 2.5 foot to 3 foot, so almost a meter. Really great open crown in here, and it looks like we've got another one poking up already, so we're gonna see how many it puts out. It's put out about 4 new fronds this year, and you can just see underneath the sort of trunk and the soaker pipe going around that. Next to that here, again another clump of the green bamboos as we pull away from this path that goes down to the bar area here. Alright guys, so since the last video we have actually added this temporary pool, which is a 12 foot by 30 inch. I've gone around and added some old slabs around the base here and a little bit of the white gravel, just to give it something to walk around here. Keep your feet from getting dirty before you jump in the pool. Do have to admit a bit of a defeat on this one, as the current pool project over here, as you can see, does not have its liner in just yet. the clay has gotten incredibly hard to work with at the moment, so the project's been pushed back slightly. You can see it's getting slightly overgrown here as we take a look at it. Still active project, but for the meantime now, at least we have a pool we can use. So heading back over here, as we go back across, another area that we've also added since the last video would be this entire bed. So reclaiming all the grass that was back to the back of that shed there and adding a gravel bed. You can see in here where we have the butia, so that's finally gone in, and that's in a raised bed. You can see here, which is mostly filled with gravel. This is a 7-foot butia, odorata or capitata. The name does change, so it's a pindo or jelly palm. Does actually produce edible fruit, which is supposedly quite sweet, so we'll have to see if we do ever get some fruit from this, see how that goes. You can see as a pan across here, a little bit of summer bedding. Also picked up a aeonium. This is not one of the hardy kinds, so it probably will need to come in for the winter. You see that's got a nice little double head here. And this was actually a freebie from one of my local gardening guys, so thank you very much for that. On the side here, you can see in this raised bed we've also included one of the Yucca jewels that we picked up from B&M. You've got a cordyline, which hopefully will go up that in a few years here. Moving on to the side here as well, we've got some cuttings of the Persicaria Purple Fantasy, and as well as the Persicaria Red Dragon, which you can just see on there. And panning back across, also planted a small Musabastu clump. This is going to hopefully fill in this area over time and really kind of fill this area out here. Panning back across again. So across here, you've got the pink china from last time, which you can see has put on a lot of growth on this side. Same with the Persicaria Red Dragon, and that is sat as an underbedding next to the Musabastu here. So as we move away from the Musabastu clump and come back to give you a more bigger view, you can now see a little pan around as we start from here. This is the new garden bed area. You've got the butia in the back, and as we pan around, you can see we've got the bananas all there. Give you a bit of a wider view as we come across. Sorry about the washing up, guys. And as we walk over here, let's just fast forward over to this garden bed. Alright, so moving over to one of the last areas of the garden, we'll show on the update. This is the one of the other water features. Again, you can have a look at the construction of this on the channel. We've also got a short that's done fairly well on this one if you have a look in the past. Now just coming up over here, looking at the ivies. You see it's massively overgrown, this bed. And we've got the sedums here coming in, or sempervivums as well. Lovely little white flowers on those. And coming back here, we've got shamrocks. Let's pan across here. Got the Yucca gloriosa. I believe there's also filamentosa growing as well. And you can see the Washingtonia has come back. Lovely new leaves on that one. I think the fence has saved this one here. I've got the crocosmia coming into flower. And lastly, just looking over here as we have a look at the very small baby Dixonia growing here, about a 6-inch trunk on that one, and still coming in nicely. So with all that said, guys, there's a quite high chance I've probably muddled up some names in this video and whatnot. Please put your comments down in the comment section down below. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and of course like and comment any of your suggestions on new plants we could add alongside any of the plantings we've got this year. And of course, apologies on the state of the garden, but just wanted to give you guys a quick update kind of where we are at this time of year. We're based in Leicestershire in the UK, and certainly have a look at the previous video update to see the kind of difference that we're looking at the moment here in regards to the garden. Hope to catch you on the next one, and we'll have another update soon. Thanks for watching.